everybody. Welcome back to the Dunc Shot, brought to you by Ray Brandt Infinity. Well, it's day one, the kickoff classic tonight of the NFL season 2014, and always a great matchup, the NFL schedules, and tonight should be a doozy. Green Bay Packers and Seattle Seahawks, two of the best teams in football, square off tonight out in Seattle. I can't wait to watch it. And as always, each year when I kick off the NFL season, I like to kick it off with my bold predictions, let you know some teams that I think are headed for a big drop-off, and some teams you might want to look out for that are going to be on the ascent. Last year, if you remember, I gave you the Philadelphia Eagles as a team to look out for. They came through for me. My other teams did not. Cleveland Browns fell short a year ago. I thought they were going to be a lot better. Ended up in a big coaching change there. And, of course, I gave you, infamously, Seattle Seahawks headed for a drop-off. That was far from the case. Regrettable decision on my part. But I'm going to stick my neck back out there again today and give you some teams to look out for in both AFC and NFC battles as we head forward to the 2014 NFL season. All right, the Houston Texans are my team in the AFC. I think last year was an outlier season. Just about everything that could go wrong did go wrong for the Texans. They've got a lot of talent on that team on both sides of the ball. I've got a lot of respect for Bill O'Brien. I think he runs a very good program. He did it at Penn State. I think he's going to do the same thing in Houston. And they've got one of the great defensive players in the history of the NFL in J.J. Watt, and they've got another maybe once-in-a-generation talent in Jadeveon Clowney. They're going to be very salty on defense. They've got a solid offensive line, terrific skill position players in Adrian Foster and Andre Johnson. If they get any kind of quarterback play at all out of Ryan Fitzpatrick, Ryan Mallett, or Tom Savage, whoever ends up being there, they're going to be very difficult to beat, and I think they benefit by playing in a very weak AFC South division. I think they can challenge the Indianapolis Colts and win that division. I'm not as high on the Colts as some people. I know they've been a trendy pick to go to the Super Bowl. I don't see it. Maybe I'm jaded by watching that preseason game against the Saints, but they did not look like a Super Bowl caliber team to me. In fact, I was questioning whether this team could even make the playoffs. They could be a team headed for a little bit of a drop-off, even though Andrew Luck is obviously an elite quarterback and they've got some skill position talent there. Some other teams I think could be on the way up. And this isn't anything bold, but I think in the AFC North, I think the old guard Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens will assume supremacy there. I see Cincinnati kind of peaking last season, and the Andy Dalton era is about to come to an end there. And I look for the Steelers or Ravens. I really like the Steelers a little bit in the nod there. I think their schedule is a little easier to win the AFC North. And I think Cincinnati's kind of plateaued under Marvin Lewis. And I don't see them making the playoffs this year, along with the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that surprised everybody a year ago, got off to that great start, obviously has a lot of talent on defense, but I'm not impressed at all with their offensive skill position group. Alex Smith's a solid game manager at quarterback. Their receiving core is pretty weak, and I just don't see how they're going to score enough points to win consistently. I see them missing the playoffs again this year. Look for the San Diego Chargers to be the wild card team in the AFC West. A team on the way up, well-coached team, and I think Phillip Rivers, superior quarterback play there, and a good emerging young defense is going to get San Diego back over the top in the AFC. Okay, on to the NFC. Much more difficult here because I think the power structure, the hierarchy in the NFC is going to stay intact. Seattle, San Francisco, New Orleans, Green Bay, and Philadelphia, they did not get any worse in all season. In fact, they may have all gotten better. It's going to be very difficult for anybody to dent that ceiling in the NFC. I think Green Bay and New Orleans might actually ascend to the top over Seattle and San Francisco because they got a little bit of a weaker schedule. Not going to have to bang heads in the NFC West, which is by far the toughest division. I think that's why I picked New Orleans to make the Super Bowl this year. I think any of those five could make it. I don't think any of them are more talented or less talented than the others. It's just going to come down to injuries, breaks of the game, and who gets momentum at the right time in the NFC. That's why it's so critical for the Saints to get home field advantage in the NFC. And I think it's going to be possible this year with the schedule, the way it plays out. Okay, teams I look for as a drop-off in the NFC. I think the Carolina Panthers are headed for a big decline. I think last year they won a lot of games, very close games, relied on that defense and the running game, and that's always difficult to duplicate. They lost a lot in free agency. They lost a lot in retirement when they lost Jordan Gross at left tackle. Didn't really replace him. They could finish last in the NFC South. Wouldn't surprise me at all. I think they're headed for a big drop-off. And this is no surprise as well, but In the NFC East, two longtime kingpins, the Dallas Cowboys and New York Giants, could be competing for worst team in the NFC. I think both of them are headed for abysmal seasons. The New York Giants have implemented a new offense with Ben McAdoo. They're struggling a lot right now to get their system down. The offensive line is atrocious, and I think Eli Manning's in for another long season. Giants are going to really struggle. Could be a changing of the guard there with Tom Coughlin and Jerry Reese at the general manager position. That's a long-time proud organization, and they're not going to take kindly to missing the playoffs 2 years in a row. And the Dallas Cowboys, what can you say? That's a train wreck. Every week we see a different story coming out about Jerry Jones, yet on the field they have not taken care of business. Their defense could be one of the worst in NFL history. Yes, Saints fans, they could challenge the abysmal 2012 Saints team that allowed the most yards in NFL history. They were on track to eclipse it last year and managed to put things together and prevent that from a year ago. They could be even worse this year. I see them potentially having the first pick in the draft next year. I think it's going to be a long year in Big D. And a team that I think could be better than people expect in the NFC South, the Tampa Bay Bucks, almost by default, could be better. They've got a lot of talent down in Tampa, and Lovie Smith's going to get that program righted very quickly. And I think Tampa Bay could challenge for one of those NFC wildcard spots, along with the Arizona Cardinals for that last wildcard spot, because I think one of them for sure is going to go to Seattle or San Francisco. And I think the NFC is just very, very competitive, very difficult to dent that for anybody trying to work their way up into that top five. All right, that's it for the Dunc Shot. We'll see how I do with my bold predictions at the end of the year. I'm sure you'll let me know. And thanks for joining me again today, right here at NOLA.com.